talk for a minute? Baby, can we talk for a minute? Can we talk for a minute? Can we talk for a minute? Baby, can we talk for a minute? Can we talk for a minute? Let's just talk for a minute. Let's talk about the way we've been living. Shooting this podcast, trying to make a difference. We could talk about your goals, or let's talk about your vision. We could talk about the foul way that people have been living.
Hi, I'm Angela Mutasic here at Coldwell Banker Seacoast Advantage. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home, I'm the gal for you. Please reach out to me. You can meet me on Facebook or Instagram. See you guys soon.
What's going on, everybody? This is Mikkel with Let's Talk with Mikkel Mutasic. Today our special guest is
Rodney Johnson.
Before we get into the questions, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, my name is Rodney Johnson Jr., and I am an educator here in Onslow County. I'm an instructional coach, a mentor. I also have my own business called Young Visionary Apparel, and then I'm a motivational speaker.
So what inspired you to start the GQ program, and what does GQ stand for?
Okay, so GQ stands for Gentleman Equality. And what's crazy is I was asked when I was hired, the principal was like, my boys are on my mind, right? She wanted something for her 8th grade group of boys. And she was like, and I think that you would be able to assist with it. And she was like, we have this mentoring group called Stride. And it was really a running group, right? And when I found out the demographic or the type of boys that she wanted to reach and just the different students, we didn't get a lot of people to stay at the school to be running, right? I was like, this is not the type of mentoring that you need or you want, right? So I went to JCMS. I was a student at JCMS, and you know Jerome Guidry?
Yeah, I know him.
So he was my ELA teacher.
Right.
And I remember he ran the group GQ.
Right.
So he's the OG. He's the originator. So when I got the job at Northwoods, I was like, boom, this is the type of mentoring program you need. And at that point, he had became a principal.
Right.
So I had reached out. He's one of my mentors.
Right.
So I just took his vision and just planted it at Northwoods Park.
Right.
And I formed it and recreated it to support the needs of the school.
Right. Roughly how many kids do you have in that program?
So each year it shifts. So right now it's an actual class. So right now we have about 21 boys.
So what key values or principles do you aim to instill in the boys that join the program? So
we focus on leadership, of course, right?
Right.
And we focus on character building, positive mindset, and their grades, right? We focus on the whole child. Right. So I just don't want to focus on your grades. I do want to focus on your character. Right. I just don't want to focus on your character and not focus on your grades.
Right.
Right. So it's really building the whole young man.
Right. That's pretty cool right there. So how do you keep young men engaged and motivated to stay committed to the program?
So I've always, when I got into teaching, I never wanted to teach. The main reason I got into teaching was to change the way education looks, right? I was a business major, and a lot of what we were hearing as business majors at Central was that students weren't graduating and they weren't prepared. So I wanted to be a teacher that changed the way education looked. I wanted to provide those real activities where they could really not just sit and get, but actually get up and do. So a lot of things when it comes to GQ, when you walk in, like our assistant principal walked in 2 days ago, and she was like, hey, just walking in. They was up in tie and ties. Right. And it wasn't like, okay, let's watch the video. No, it was like grab a tie, stand up around the room, and literally they were tying the tie after I tied it. Right. And it's just like finding those hands-on activities. Of course, there's going to be those sit and get moments. Right. But like even in my regular classes that I teach, I'm always trying to do something different. Right. Trying to find a different way to apply the content, but making sure it's easy for them to pick up now.
So, do you do like things out of school for kids or?
Absolutely. It's crazy. Okay, so let me go back. So, I think education is not just inside the classroom. Right. Education is just not books. Right. Just as you grow older, like education is life. Right. Knowledge is power, right? So I've done events in the community where it was Ready, Set, Go, where we, me and Manly Moore,
Right. Shout out to Manley.
We put together this program. He assisted with it, and we put together this program where it assisted high school students that were about to graduate to be ready for the next steps.
Right.
And we provided a space where they would be challenged. There was games, all that stuff, but also they had opportunity to hear from college students. Like this is what they told you, but this is what's really going on, right? We've done male summits. So a lot of people say there's not a lot of mentoring groups in the county, right? And they're true. But there are some out here. I try to get, a lot of people ask, how can they get involved with GQ? But the unfortunate thing about it is GQ is inside the school. Like we've created to where it's a class, right? So you got to go to the school. But to provide that opportunity, we've done male summits. So like male conferences for boys. And it's been open for students from 6th to 8th grade. Or we've done stuff from 6th to 12th grade. I'm actually doing an event June 7th. And it's called, shameless plug. It's called When a Man Speaks. And it's really focusing on showing young men their power, their voice has power, right? And it's not just focusing on public speaking. It's just like, you know how you ask a young man something and they be like, I don't know. Or like they don't want to raise their hand, or like they be on the sports field and they don't really tell you how they feel. It's really helping them understand the power of their voice in different avenues of life.
And you said that's June 7th?
Yes, June 7th.
Where's it going to be held at?
It's going to be held at 49 Village Drive. Registration will go live this weekend. So as soon as it drops, I'll let you know.
Okay, so for the people that want to like follow you or whatever, what's your socials?
So you can follow me on Facebook at Rodney Johnson Jr. And then on TikTok, you can follow me at Mr_JRM3. Mr_JRM3.
Right. So how does this program address issues like peer pressure, toxic masculinity, and emotional intelligence?
So let's start with emotional intelligence. So first of all, a lot of people be like, well, what's the curriculum? So we are very specific about the boys we pick, right? It used to be we would see the need and we would pick, right? And before we would pick, I always go up and be like, hey, what do you know what a mentor is, right? I ask them to be their mentor because I've learned first of all, mentoring is for everybody. But everybody's not open to be mentored. And that's the only way mentoring works. Because a lot of parents, we was talking, you was like, yeah, a lot of people be saying like they need mentors. Yeah, that's a thing. But like, are these young men coachable? Are they willing to listen? And I'm not saying like we out here demanding stuff, right? But there's times where like I'm talking to you like a coach. And there's times that I'm talking to you just like I'm talking to you right now, right? But we have to make sure that those boys are willing to grow. So after it was a season where we just picked them. Then now we give out applications to the whole 7th grade. It's because it's directed to the 8th grade group, and we give applications out, and we go through an interview process. We do one by one, and then when it gets down to it, we've had 50 boys in one room. And we ask questions and we look around the room and be like, who's going to be the first one to stand up? Who's going to be the first one to move? And we're not just looking for the vocal ones. We're looking for the ones in the room that are shrinking. Because they need the mentoring or they need what we're trying to focus on, right? So you said, how do we focus on those topics? We strategically form our curriculum around the need of everyone we've picked. Because every year, every group, and it just works out that way. Every person we pick, they have the same similarity. 1 year is anger. 1 year is academics. Every year is academics, right? Or 1 year it's pushing them into confidence, right? So we focus in on those boys, and then we find that one trait that they all have or that they all don't have, and we focus in on those things. But we then we explore all the main topics, right? We've talked about money. We've talked about girls. We've talked about dating. We've talked about leadership. Public speaking is one of my favorite ones, right? So we always bring in different things. I'm not the one that watches sports, but I'm aware of sports. But more like he can speak things in a sports language, right? And then I can speak things in a different language where we relate it to music, or we relate it to gaming, or we relate it
Right.
to stuff outside of school to make stuff inside of school work. So like when you say emotional intelligence, some of them haven't even tapped into emotional intelligence yet.
Right. Okay.
So we start with the basics and we build upon those things.
Right. Right.
Because I'm a strong believer as a teacher in teaching in simulations.
Right.
Like, what are you doing for you to really feel it? Or what are you doing to really see how it's being impacted, right?
Right.
Because a lot of kids be like, how am I going to use this in real life?
Right.
Or we'll pull a video off of Shark Tank or off of something, the draft that just happened, right? Or anything that they've seen on social media. And then we connect it back to, are you watching your anger?
Right.
Was it smart when he posted that gun on social media, but he got all these scholarships behind his name, right? We relate it to real life, and then we introduce the word of emotional intelligence. Okay. Like we show it without saying it, and then really teach it. Right. Does that make sense?
Understood.
So yeah, that's how we address those things.
Right. I hear you keep talking about public speaking. Like, what's some of the where's some places you done taught?
The different places I taught. You know, it's crazy that you're saying this. I'm actually getting the opportunity to go to Meadowview tomorrow, the elementary school, and they were asking to come support and empower their 4th grade and 5th grade students.
Right.
So they invited me in because they've seen the different activities I've done with GQ, or the different activities when we do a day of power in the community. So I'm actually speaking there tomorrow for 2 hours. I've spoken at graduations for different schools in and outside of Onslow County. My goal is to really I want schools to really we want you to come in and empower our staff, or come talk to our students, right?
Right.
And since I'm an instructional coach, that allows me to practice that, because I help train teachers, or I help support teachers in the things that they may need in their classes. So I run trainings all the time. Right. And then we've been invited, me and Moore have been invited to schools in Charlotte.
That's dope.
And we're actually working on one now for a school out of state. But it's just I just want to go, and I just want to be out there and empowering people. That's honestly what it is.
Right. So putting you on the spot real fast, what's your main goal with that?
What's my main goal? I'm glad you asked. So I speak in church events, and I speak for schools. My speaking goal is I want to change the way education looks. I want to change the way students receive education and how they perceive education, because perceive education, because it's like the way you view it is already wrong. Some of y'all are defeated when y'all come through the door. Right. But then the reason why you view it that way is because of the way that you receive education. We always think it's supposed to be a sit and get.
I could see you being a global man.
Listen, that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the goal. So I really want to just be able to travel and just be able to empower and encourage, even when it comes to church stuff, just being a mouthpiece for God, or just empowering youth to really understand the reality of the scriptures, and not just think this is just something that we just go to church on Sundays, right? So it's just that.
So what challenges did you face in getting this program off the ground, and how did you overcome them?
So I don't want to say it will. Okay, so a couple challenges. First of all, I wanted to shout out to my original principal, which is Angela Garland, and then Shantae Cooks, who is the principal at Northwoods Park now, because they've always been supportive of creating a space for young men to thrive, or students to thrive. Period. And so they've opened doors, and if I had an idea, they were like, hold on, let's think about it. Let's craft it right. Let's create a plan so it makes sense, right? But some challenges. One, the boys. Because sometimes they didn't know what a definition of a mentor was. Right? Sometimes you try to help young men, but they didn't want it. Because they assumed it was going to be one thing and didn't think it was going to be another, right? And then I had to realize a lot of young men, they were in the program. I actually posted a video with one of my previous mentees, and I asked him what was the hardest thing about having a mentor. He was like, the crazy thing is, some of us have never had a father figure. So having a male teacher, or a male role model, or a a person of authority that is a male figure
Right.
was new to them.
Yeah, that structure messed them up.
It's structure, authority. I would ask you to do something, and sometimes you think it's just like I'm the playful uncle from the cookout,
Right.
and now that's not what this is, right?
Right.
Or I'm the cousin that you look up to, and y'all just really cool, but you've never been in a structured environment
Right.
with a male figure, so you don't know how to appropriately address me or receive correction from me.
Right.
So sometimes you would just shut down.
So do some kids give in, or is it like, no, I'm not gonna listen to you, and that's it?
Both. I have some kids that like are open to it because they've never had
Right.
a father figure, and not saying that I want. And let me make that clear. Like, because when you come into mentoring, some parents be like, "Oh, I want you to come in and do what I'm not doing." They don't say that, right? And I don't want to say. Let me correct that. Let me go back because I don't want to say that. Some parents want you to come in and because there is no male role model,
Right.
and I make it clear that I'm not here trying to be somebody's father.
Right.
I'm not here trying to step in as a father or replace a father. I'm trying to have the father's back.
Right.
I'm trying to support what father and mom are doing. Right? That's what a mentor is supposed to do, to go ahead and support the foundation that's already been laid.
Right.
So that's one thing. And then when you say, do they fold? Do they give in? Do they just be like some people, like some kids? I've done house calls and be like, I really want you to be in this program.
Right.
And they say it to my face, no. Because they know it comes with a challenge. Because they've seen the boys before, right? And I respect that. I respect that because honestly, mentoring is a two-way street.
Right.
Because if I'm just talking to a wall, what good am I doing? And if you're not receiving, and I'm not saying they're going to do everything I say right now,
Right.
because what I've learned is I'm planting seeds.
Right.
It's somebody else's job to water them, right? But if I don't get a response of I'm willing to try or I'm willing to work, it's hard for the mentoring to happen.
Right.
So it's I've seen both sides of it.
Right. So how do you get yourself right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Something that make you mad? Because I know like everybody get mad. So like, if something make you mad, how do you get yourself back to like the Ronnie everybody know?
So it's crazy. When it comes to teaching, you definitely have to have a patience. Like when people hop into teaching, I feel like don't hop into teaching or mentoring just because it looks like it's good. They be like, I love what you're doing. I love the stuff you're doing inside of school. But they don't see when the kids don't want to work.
Right.
They don't see what you had to do on the backside. I had to pull him out of class and talk to him really quickly to get his mind together, to hop back in the game, right? So in those tense moments of, oh, you just slipped up and cursed at me and you didn't even apologize, or those moments where like you're refusing to do the work, those moments make you angry because as like how I was raised, if I said it, just do it. Or if I said it, don't question it, right? But first of all, I had to get my mentality together and remind myself that when I first started teaching, I was like, my main rule is respect.
Right.
My main rule is respect. And when I don't receive that, I was just like, oh no.
Right.
But I also had to realize respect has to be taught.
Right.
Because what's respect to me isn't respect to them.
Right.
Or they don't, we don't have the same definition of respect, right?
Everybody walks life is different.
Facts, right? Yeah. So I had to acknowledge that.
Right.
First of all, anytime I get a mentee, I have to acknowledge what's their background.
Right.
And then I also have to know who am I dealing with.
Right.
Because if I pop off with A and he receives it, that doesn't mean B is going to receive the same way. Right. Because I could be popping off on A, but I'm sounding like B's mom.
Right.
If that makes sense. And he responds to his mom and shuts down. So I don't need to sound like a mom or a dad right now. I need to sound like a mentor. So I've realized different ways to address different people. Right. But also in that moment of being ready to like, I really had to step back. Right. Because I feel like they need to see me calmly address something. Right. But also there are some times that you do need, you do. I say pop off. We know what pop off means. That don't mean like get fired. But they do need to see the disciplinary. Right. If that makes sense.
So how do you measure the growth or progress of the boys in your program, mentally, emotionally, or academically?
By the actions. And that's why it's so important not just to do sit and get.
Right.
Because just because I know it doesn't mean I know how to show it, right?
Right.
Just because I've read about it doesn't mean I know how to actually deal with it. So like we can read about changing a tire all day,
Right.
but when you get out there and it's flat, do you really know how to fix the tire, right?
Right.
So like that's why we do challenges like the tie. If we just watch the video, you never touched the tie before. What you gonna do when you get a tie?
Right.
Right. So I do challenges to measure it. So we watch Coach Carter.
Right.
I require them to always watch Coach Carter, and then we recite the poem in the "What's your deepest fear?"
Right.
My deepest fear is not that I'm inadequate. My deepest fear is that I'm powerful beyond measure. Right.
Right,
And we
right.
go. I make them memorize it,
Right.
but then I send them home, and then I tell them to say it to their parent, videotape it, and then I want you to explain what you just said.
Right.
Because there's no reason to recite something, learn something, whatever, if you can't teach it.
Right.
And the greatest way to show that somebody's learned it is if you can teach it to somebody else.
Right.
So those are ways that I, assess the learning. But also, it's just like day one. How did they come in, and then how did they leave? There were some times that, and mind you, GQ is just not a behavior clinic.
Right.
Right. We believe that mentoring is for all races, all behaviors.
Right.
Everybody needs a mentor, right? So when we're talking about behavior, I've had some students coming to me out of the 7th grade, and they had this amount of ISS or this amount of OSS,
Right.
and they've been in the 8th grade program, and after the first month, they weren't in ISS.
Right.
They weren't in OSS. I also grade our program, I guess, based off of the feedback from the parents.
Right.
Like we try to build a strong connection to the parents, because how can I mentor and I didn't even check in with mom or check in with dad or like connect with that?
Right,
Because
right.
like I'm supposed to be supporting what you already got going on.
Right. Right.
I'm not out here trying to be Captain Sable. Right? I'm not trying to be the savior. Like that's not my job.
Right.
My job is to be another defense against what's already trying to come at this child.
Right. Right.
And
right.
parents already got like 15 hands trying to block. Right? I'm another fence trying to block out. I'm on the team. Right?
Right.
I'm another member of the defense.
Right.
Does that
Right.
make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So that's how I measure it.
Okay,
That's how I measure it.
So I know you said you like keep in contact with the parents. Is that like, do you keep in contact with the teachers too? Like check on the child, like see what the child doing, or does the teacher come to you? Or
so what we do at the park is every year so it's developed from like just 5 minutes before homeroom to be in a homeroom to like 10 minutes or to actually be in an enrichment class to now it's an official class, right? So teachers know the roster.
Right.
When we pick the boys, we send the names out. We send the names out at the beginning of the year, so everybody's aware.
Right.
Everybody's aware of who these boys is, and it's not to put a target on their back.
Right.
It's just like if there was a list posted for track or football.
Right.
We want to know who representing the school, right?
Right.
So the people should know who's representing the mentor group, right?
Right.
And then they know that I'm a disciplinarian inside the group.
Right.
As well as I'm a facilitator, teacher, advocate, all those things under mentor, right? But I'm not the disciplinarian in the school.
Right.
That's administration.
Right.
So they're aware that I'm a mentor and I'm over them and I hold them accountable and we stay in constant contact, but that doesn't disclose them from getting in trouble. Like I don't do that, right? That goes to the principals, and we've been real clear with that. My admin has been clear with that. But I stay in communication with them because we constantly check grades.
Right.
I ask what's going on in the classrooms. It's been times I've gone in. So with my role as instructional coach, I can peek in and out of classrooms. Moore is he's my right hand in the program.
Right.
So like when he's on one of his planning breaks, we'll walk up in the class and just sit in the back.
Right.
And we want to see like how are you using your power, or how are you executing? Are you playing off around? So like we try to make sure that our presence is felt, seen, heard, conversations. Right. So if you have a parent-teacher conference, I need to be there because I'm one of the teachers. Right. So it's not a separate thing; it's all one thing. If that makes sense.
Right. So is that program like year round, or how? It's
a year-round program. So it's like one of their electives.
Right.
So if they got PE, their elective is GQ.
Okay.
Each year we've tried to change it. Like it was an enrichment one year. So I'm just glad to be at a school where we fix it. So if it's a homeroom, they have that homeroom all year.
Okay.
We try to make it work for the student.
So what's one thing you believe every young man should be taught before graduating high school?
That's a list. That's a list. Okay, I say a list, but I would say this: how to act. How to act. Because, and the reason is, I'm not saying perform for the people.
Right.
But when you get in front of people,
right,
what do the people see?
Right.
How do they see you carrying yourself?
Right.
One thing my dad always said when I was growing up was like, a man only has his name.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It does matter the work you do, but he only has his name.
Right.
When you don't have no money, you got your name.
Right.
When you ain't got a job, you got your name.
Right.
So when you hear Rodney Johnson, what is it that name says?
Right.
What actions have you done that have made that name to be known?
Right.
And what is that name known for?
Right.
So you need to know how to act in different scenarios. When we go into church, how we act. When we get in the car, how we act. Right? When we going on a date, how do you act?
Right.
When you at the football field and mama ain't around, whose name you representing right now?
Right.
Right? So like how to act. And I say that, and sometimes when you say that, that's simple, but when you think about it, I want to be able to trust you to go to a football game without me being there.
Right.
And ain't nobody calling me talking about something. What is such and such doing out here?
In other words, don't embarrass that name.
That part. And some people haven't had that level of accountability, and some people think that's like, in this new mindset, like, oh, you trying to be a dictator, you trying to act like he a slave. No, I'm trying to make sure he know that his name is powerful.
Right.
So when people see you, like they change the way they act because the way you act. Right. So that's what I think. I'll say it was numerous things that came to my mind, but I'll say how to act.
Give us something else then.
How to speak. Right. A man should know how to handle his finances. Right. And sometimes we've always said like the school don't teach, but sometimes that's something that may have to be taught outside the school. Right. How to handle himself without like on his own. Because sometimes some people may call it a mama's boy or a parent's boy.
Right.
And like you've been very dependent on somebody else. You know how to handle yourself independently. And I didn't say go rogue, because we got some boys saying, oh, I'm supposed to handle everything and don't know how to handle help.
Right.
But can you be independent? That don't mean you deny help. That means can you handle your stuff when nobody's around?
Right.
So those are some things that come to mind. How to treat a woman, how to handle your business.
Right. As a man or a young man.
How to be, main thing, how to handle your business. And when I say handle your business, how do you handle responsibility?
Right.
Because the one thing that I relate it to is, I want to work. I just want the money. Okay, you don't work right now, but you can't handle these grades.
Right.
So how am I going to handle money when I get it?
Right.
So a work ethic.
Right.
So
I like the fact you hold them accountable.
Facts.
Right. So what conversations do you have with the boys about handling conflict without violence or disrespect?
That's a good question. Because we know we've grown up in cultures where I grew up. If somebody touch you, if somebody hit you, you hit them back, right?
Yeah.
And then as a teacher, I had to grow. Okay, so what is the response now? Because I can't lose my job and tell you to knock his teeth out, right? So I had to grow into that. I had to realize what that response was, right? We talk about, first of all, is it worth it? Because some of this stuff y'all arguing about,
crazy.
And then you didn't mess around and got 5 days OSS and it wasn't even worth it.
And your reputation is everything.
And now this is what you're known for, but you didn't, all you had to do was take 5 steps back and just breathe and be like,
Right.
Or the one that was running his mouth is failing all his grades, but you sitting here and about to give up what you worked so hard for.
Right.
So we talked about those things before even violence is a answer.
Right.
Because I'm like, what other answers did you have before you had the answer to swing? Did you
Right.
black out and not even think before you moved?
In 10 seconds, it costs you a lot. Oh,
And we living in a society that I don't care
yeah.
what you did well. Your response was this
Right.
at the moment.
Right.
And I'm not even trying, and depending on what you look like, I don't even care what you got to say.
Right. Right. Right.
Which goes back to how you act, because
Right.
what you present yourself as, right? So just thinking about it in the moment is really what I try to tell them, because a lot of times we blow stuff up that shouldn't even be blown up in the moment.
Right.
And then a lot of times, well, he was talking about my girl, and then y'all are not even dating tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's crazy because that's what grown people do. Just not
Facts.
kids. Like, that's what grown people do.
Facts. So and then that's where a lot of lessons come from, because how you say grown people, because what are some things I wish I had known before I got grown?
Right.
What lessons did you learn when you were grown? That if I had to learn this when I was 16, 12, 13, if I had got my anger done and fixed in middle school at 25, this wouldn't have been a problem.
Right.
If that makes sense. So like that's another way that we create the lessons.
Right. Right.
So
Right. So how do you teach young men the importance of body language, eye contact, and speaking with a purpose?
So there's this scenario, or sometimes a simulation, when we do public speaking. There's some days I have come into the classroom and they were trying to talk to me, and I just stopped looking. I look distracted. I'm looking everywhere else but what you were saying. And I showed them how that feels. And then there's been times we've shown, we talk about interviews, we talk about locker room talk, like we talk about the uniforms of each location you go into,
Right.
and what's appropriate, or what if I say, I'll give a scenario and I post a picture of who it is. Does what he's wearing match what he's earning, type of thing? And if it does, or if it doesn't, we have a dialogue about it,
Right.
right? Because sometimes what you wear doesn't really matter about where you're at, and then sometimes it does.
Right.
So we have those conversations. I go back to that simulation, like I put them in place of it.
Right.
Or if they don't get in place of it, we'll dress it up.
Right.
Like I'll come in. There's been times, one year I did this for my keyboarding class. We talk about when you type, there got to be a proper way that you sit, or you'll really do physical harm to you. So I came in with a do-rag on my head, a robe on, sunglasses, and they were just like, "What's going on with you?" I said, "I'm here to teach. You don't look like it.
Right.
You're a distraction to what we're trying to do right now."
Right.
Because like I had this bright purple robe on, bright green do-rag on. And I was like, I wear do-rags all the time, but if I hear it ain't, right?
Right.
Like, so I do what it takes to teach.
Right.
So they see the impact. So if you come by my classroom when I am teaching, I'm probably the teacher that's on top of the tables. I'm probably the teacher that you're going to hear me before you see me.
Right.
Because I feel like I want to do things in a way that makes sure that I grab your attention, not too drastic that it's inappropriate, but it's appropriate enough that you will always remember what I'm trying to teach you.
Right. So what's your long-term vision for the GQ program, and how can others get involved and support it?
So he asking me, like, I literally just asked him his goal, and that's one thing. I'm gonna give you the answer you gave me before I asked you. My boys asked me that one time, and I was like, I really don't know. And it's because sometimes we can be so hung up in doing the thing that we don't know where the thing is going.
Right.
And that's dangerous at one part, and that's good at one part, because like I'm always planning for GQ.
Right.
But some days, like, you need to know next year GQ.
Right.
So for instance, for me right now, GQ turns 10 next year.
Hey, that's a big milestone right there.
So I need to know where GQ gonna go, because organizations aren't making it 10 years.
Right.
So like I need to know. So I'm glad that you asked, but like kind of GQ and teaching is one for me.
Right.
I always say when I first started teaching, if I could mentor all day, I would do it.
Right.
So maybe an academy for boys. Maybe continually doing events outside of school where it's like creating events for folks that aren't at Northwoods Park.
Right.
Folks over in Swansboro or Richlands can participate.
Right.
So creating more events like that. I'll say that for
Right.
now.
So I mean, I know you said you had like a few events going on. How often do you hold your events?
So we used to do the Male Summit yearly,
Right.
right? But then COVID happened.
Right.
And then we had to bounce back from that. So I don't think we've had one since. So I would say at least once a year there's something going on.
Right.
I don't want to say like, oh, every 2 months because I don't want to lie, right? But because doing something in Jacksonville, you got to do all the because you just did your event, right? So like it's just like because you got to think about the money, and then you got to ask the people to show up, and then you got to figure out all the things, which I love event planning and all that stuff. But like I would say at least once a year I'm doing something, right? And then I'm also working on my grad degree, so I'm trying to give myself space and not put everything on my plate. But at least once a year there's something going on.
Right. And I know you mentioned your socials earlier, but like when you do have your events, do you post them on your socials?
Yes, I post all like this flyer that's about to go up this week about this next event. It will be all over Facebook. It will be all over TikTok. I rarely post a lot of stuff when it's event wise on TikTok because it's a different type of audience. Right. But a lot of stuff I always post on TikTok. I put it in the groups. I share it with a lot of the I try to share it with the news, or I try to share it with different podcasts that we got going on. So that's how I try to connect and send them out to the schools and all that stuff.
Right. And again, what's your socials?
So my Facebook is Rodney Johnson Jr. It is open so people can follow me and know all the things that are going on, where I'm speaking at. And then my TikTok is at Mr_JRM3.
So what are the proper steps to take when approaching a young lady with respect and confidence?
So I laughed when you wrote that question down and you sent that to me. And the reason why is because there are some things that are mandatory, right? When you approach a female.
Right.
And then there are some things that, depending on the female, you have steps for, right?
Right.
Because if I do step 1, that may work for everybody. Then step 2 is going to figure out how, right? First of all, I need to know the female I'm approaching.
Right.
I need to know, because a lot of the dudes are like, even as men, now we realize, oh, I thought I could approach it like this, but then I ain't do my research. You need to study. Right? You need to study your person. And then I need to study to figure out what she like, what she don't like. How do I approach her? What she's not getting now.
Right.
That's going to make me different. What sets me apart? Right. It's like my business, right? If I'm doing an event, what sets this event different from everybody else? What's going to make everybody come out to this event? What's going to catch her attention?
Right.
What's going to make her lock in and be like, yo, all y'all other folks in the room, I don't know what y'all doing, but this one right here.
Right.
So I need to study her. I say that's one.
So when you saying study, is it like small talk, or you just looking?
This ain't even before we started talking.
Oh, okay.
This ain't even before we started talking, because like when we start talking, the way that I move towards you, I want you to know that I studied you.
Okay.
Right?
So when you hit the ground, you're gonna hit the ground running.
Run it. Like, and it's not even me trying to sound like I'm thirsty, but like if I want $1 million, I'm gonna do what it takes to get $1 million.
Right.
Not saying, oh, that's $1 million. Oh, I got to figure out what to do with $1 million when I get it. No, when I arrive to the date, first of all, I had to do something to get the date.
Right.
Or if I see you in the room, I need to do something that catches her attention.
Right.
So I should have studied her, asked her friends what she liked.
Right.
I'm trying to stay educator and grown man at the same time. So let's say if I'm in the school, I told my boys, like, you got enough friends that know her. That you could have asked everybody before you even talked to her. Right. You made the mistake before you even approached her. You didn't study.
Right.
So I know what she likes, all these things. And then when I get to the table, when I get the opportunity to speak, I'm gonna say what she likes.
Right.
I'm gonna catch her attention. If she likes this music, hey, what you think about J. Cole? Or what you think about this? That was just some random person that came to my mind, right? What do you think about this? And she gonna be like, ooh. It's not coincidence that I said these things.
Right.
But when I say these things, you're gonna think it's coincidence because you're like, oh, everything just locked in. The stars just aligned.
And the whole time you've been doing your whole
I aligned them stars, right? So it's just step one is study. 2 is use what you have studied and apply, right? I'm not a love guru, so we're gonna stop there. But yeah, like, and I tell my boys that, like, anytime it goes back to public speaking, it goes back to interviewing. Anytime that I'm in my classroom and I talk about interviewing, or anytime that I talk about public speaking, I relate it to dating.
Right.
Because first of all, as dudes, I tell my boys all the time, that's what they've got to be learning this. When we speaking, you got a girl that sends you this long list in this text message. And then what do guys do? Okay. Like, I said, boy, do you know what you just did? Like, right. So in our classes, and all the girls just start laughing. They be like, yes. Wait, clock it, right? So, and the boys just be like, true. So, and then we go back to emotional intelligence, right? It's really, really understanding. Did you read the room? Did you understand the emotions that came over when she received the word that said, okay?
Right. So everything you try to teach come back full circle.
It's life. Education is life, right?
Yeah. So do you involve families or community in any way to support the young men in the program?
I do. First of all, I involve the families that I'm dealing with their son. One, because it's a team sport. Education is a team sport. Mentoring is a team sport.
Right.
I can't just be, even like when you're a youth pastor or all this thing, I am another athlete on the team, right? So it's not just me. Because right now I only got them for the 8th grade.
Right.
By 10th grade, they may forget me until they see me in the neighborhood, right? Do I involve them? Yes, because a lot of parents be like, can I come in and do this? Or if you ever need a speaker, yes. But with that, whether it be parents or community members, I am protective over what we've built. Right? One, because this is somebody else's child.
Right.
And I need my job. Right? But also, this is my vision. And just like if it was I don't have kids, but if it was my baby, first thing when babies come out the womb, ain't nobody touching my baby. Right? You wash your hands before you touch the baby, right? So the same way that people treat that is the same way I treat GQ. And I try not to come off real tense, but I'm very protective. Like if somebody's coming to speak, I do my research before you come in, right? And then I approve it by admin. Because we do different events throughout the year, but it's also how you gonna handle the weight that I give you. You see what I'm saying? When you get in the room, this just ain't just talking to boys. Mentoring just ain't, first of all, it ain't just come in, they see you today. No, they gonna remember you. So now I gotta realize, who am I bringing in front of you? Are you breaking what I taught you? Or are you building along what I taught them already? So yeah, I do, especially resources, because teachers, mentors, churches, we need the resources. But we're also particular about the resources because sometimes people be like, you think you will want the help? I do. But I don't need somebody that's gonna come in here and tear up what I've already built. And I say that because I don't want to sound cocky, but I say that with a heart.
Respectful.
Because again, these are other folks' kids, and they've trusted me with their kids. This is valuable.
Right. Can you share a success story of a student whose life was impacted in a major way?
I'm trying to pick one, right? One success story is when I first got in this role. He was one of my first mentees, and he was actually my first. And his grandma. This was a success story in the process of mentoring, and I'll tell you why. Because when I became a teacher, I was trying to find a job. I was praying for a job. Fast forward to we're having a parent teacher conference. This person, his mom had passed, and then his dad wasn't present at the moment, and he was being raised by his grandma, right? And she came in, she was like, Mr. Johnson, you don't know how much I prayed for in a program like this for him. And again, I'm not trying to be nobody's savior, right? But like it shook me because like while I'm out here praying for a job, somebody's out here praying for me to be in that job.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I count that as success.
Right.
Right? Even before we get to the end of did he graduate? Right? Even before we get to the part of did he get out of 8th grade? The success was there was a opportunity for a need to be met.
Right.
Right? Then other success stories is when they come back and tell you, thank you, because I got the job.
Right.
And I remember what you taught us in 8th
Right.
grade. And that happens every now and then. Other success story, one of my boys last year, crazy thing is he didn't know what he wanted to do after graduation.
Right.
And like I was checking in on him. And then I try to create a lot of space after 8th grade.
Right.
Because I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to be a helicopter parent.
Right.
I want to give you room to grow,
Right.
but I want you to still know I got your back, right? So senior year, try to make sure he's good, all that stuff. I try to make sure whatever resources I got to help him connect with what he wants to do, I try to provide that, right? So he finally makes the decision to go to the military.
Right.
I could not make it on the day of graduation after he got out of boot camp, right? And one of the families that their son was in GQ went to the boot camp. Right. And I got a text message from the dad. And he said when they got back to his room to get his bags, when you go to boot camp, you can't take all this stuff, right?
Right.
He reaches in his book bag, and the first thing that he reaches out to get was his GQ hoodie. And mind you, this dude ain't been in the actual program since the 8th grade.
Right.
So you've graduated high school, gone to boot camp. You took it with you to boot camp, right? And then that's the first thing you put on when you get out of.
Right.
So like, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like these are things that like when I was praying for a job back in 2016, I wasn't thinking about this.
Right.
So to me, that's a success story, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because like not only are you moving in the area to improve yourself,
right,
but you're showing that you had a place to belong.
Right.
And it meant something to you.
Right.
So those are success stories for me. And there's many, and a lot of people are like, well, did he graduate or did he get a job? And those are all success stories too.
Right.
But a lot of times the success story is in like you coming back, not just for me, but you showing the fruit of the work of the program. Right. Whether that be continuing to get a job or going to, I got students now that are going to the college I graduated from. The North Carolina Central University. Let's just put that out. NCCU. I say that because you just had Tanyetta up here, right?
Right.
So like to have somebody graduate that's a GQ member, and I say GQ is for life because that's their, like education is life. I got your back for life. I will always be your mentor. And to have boys walking the same campus that you walk, texting you back, talking about there's this person on campus that says they knew you. Yeah. Like you were involved in that program, right? Or there's this person on campus that reminds me of you.
Right.
And he's like helping me doing the same things that you were helping me with.
Right.
Those are success stories, right? Yeah. Like teachers, and I hope I'm not mistaken, I read one of your cards that you shared with me about a teacher education question.
Right.
And one of the questions was like, how do teachers know they did their job, or how do teachers feel that they've been successful?
Right.
To have somebody come back and say, what you taught me worked. To have somebody remember you because of how you made them feel, meaning like you made them feel like they had somewhere to belong. That's a success story.
Right.
So that's success to me.
So like roughly, how many kids you think you done mentored?
So right now it's almost 300.
That's dope.
We're coming up on year 10.
That's dope.
And the only reason I know that is because I had a count. Like I was just going through pictures and I just counted the number of heads in the pictures. And it's just like, yo, between 250 boys and 300 boys.
Right.
That's a blessing.
And it's still going to go up.
Yes.
And I would like to give you your flowers because I feel like you're doing an awesome job with mentoring. Because I'll be seeing you on the internet doing your thing, and I just want to give you your flowers so you keep up the good work.
I appreciate it so much.
Before we get out of here, I know you see I got a couple of signatures on the table.
Woo! I get to sign the table.
And I'd love for you to sign the table. Sign and date the table, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll take this one right here. There we go.
Tell a friend. Let's talk.